And I was just telling you really quickly that the whole journey is a complete lineage of things. I, for the first time, am the only person that may be able to trace that history was pre-written before the events happened. And I know that sounds strange, but things that were set up in my journey were set up 50 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, and follow through. I'm in Peterborough right now, and follow through into Peterborough. I am sick, and I've wasted a lot of time and money on this, but as I read and I find out what I wrote, it's a consecutive or concise or continuous history of 5,000 years. I was just at a yard sale today, and the people had just come from Egypt some time ago, and they brought a papyrus with them and they sold it to me. So I now have something that came directly from Cairo. But all of what I'm doing here, they're behind me, and he can't tape it for obvious reasons that I won't disclose. There's a Model T, and that Model T is 1919, and I bought that about 4 years ago. And like I told you in that tape that you have in that camera, I bought it because of a berry bush that's out there in the front of the yard. And that berry bush, I made berry treats. When we first moved here, there was lots of blueberries on it, and I made these berry pies or tarts. And then I had a dream about a product that was called Billy Berry New England pastries. So I bought the truck. I saw the truck, and I bought the truck, and I was going to paint the truck blue and yellow and make it look like a Disneyland truck. Now, for those of you that have been to Disneyland or Disney World Main Street, they have running around turn-of-the-century trucks that are like delivery trucks, like pie trucks, ice trucks, whatever. And I was going to do that with it and then paint my logo on it, and then that was going to be my trademark for my product. And then I was going to try to get Little Debbie's or one of those people to promote it. And it was going to be made out of Vermont and New Hampshire blueberries. Well, that didn't work. I brought the truck here. I paid $2,000 for it, which isn't a lot, but I needed it for my trademark. It wouldn't have been that much for the trademark. Well, I didn't do anything to it, so it's in its natural condition. I didn't spray paint it or anything. And it turns out that the natural color of it and the rest of it, turns out it's a 1919 Model T. 1919 was a precisely exact year. It was the year that Einstein would prove his theory, and it was the year that, well, a bunch of things happened. Anyway, after a while, I left the Model T there. I also have a barn over here, which you can't see, and I was supposed to remodel it. That's why I took another barn down to get the siding, so I could put matching siding on and paint it, make it all nice and clean. That was going to be the place where I was going to sell my art and my writing from. Well, that didn't happen either. And the reason it didn't happen is the spirit world, which I call the journey, knew ahead of time that I would be here and that I would take that truck and make a story out of it, of these people going to Egypt in it on an expedition. Then the barn would become the Milky Way Dairy, and then I would set it up so that it was the home of a secret society. And this secret society would know all these people, Lindbergh, all these people, Twain, all these people were parts of the secret society. And so they all got together to do certain things. What they were going to do originally was they were going to have an expedition and go to Egypt. The reason Professor Z buys this house is the orientation to the stars and the astronomy, which is what I love about this place. And so he would be using that theory to prove that ancient man had a better knowledge of some things than we do now, and that history may be also determined before the events happen. He was also looking for water in the desert, because almost all the ancient places were built around wells. Now World War I is coming up, and so the Germans and other people, they're looking to get the information as to where the wells are, because all armies run on water and gasoline. So basically, all of a sudden, I'm using the truck, I'm creating a man, I'm using the barn as the dairy, I'm creating a set, and so for the last 5 years I've been working on that. And what I didn't know is that the spirit world had set me up. And they set me up for a long journey that would ultimately destroy a lot of my health and take most of my money. But we have to judge as to what's valuable. Along that time, I took the back porch and I was converting it to a cabin, because early on in Monterey we were being persecuted and ran into a lot of trouble with our neighbors. And these were people that may have actually did away with my life. And so with the one world government being out there and people are persecuting me, I thought, oh, I'm going to go up to the Sierras where I love to be from ever since I was a kid. For 50 years I went up to the Sierras and enjoyed it and fished and was a total American boy like Tom Sawyer. And so I started to build cabins and put them up there. I took 2 little cabins up there and I did the Thoreau thing. They ended up at the edge of a pond, even though I didn't know it. And I brought those back. That didn't work. And so when I came here, I decided to convert the sun porch to a cabin. It was also so I could live in something that wouldn't kill me and could take less to heat and all that, and just be exciting. And so that half fell apart. So I got that half done. And while I was here, I'm a dream seer and I see things in dreams. I had a dream about a thing called Follow the Star, and it was about Thoreau coming to this house and picking up a black man, something Jack, Boot Jack or something like that, and taking him up through Keene, because Thoreau's mother was born in Keene and Thoreau knew the area. And then he would take him up through Vermont to the place that was the house of Harriet Beecher Stowe. She had one on the border. And then off to safety. Well, I wrote most of that book and I drew the pictures from what I saw in my head. It was like an 1850s Charles Dickens kind of illustration. And that was in the dream. It also followed another dream, which is on this, I talk about it, that was of the black man trying to marry his wife and doing an African dance. And she fades away and then she goes into an escape tunnel. So I'm assuming she was captured as a slave and brought here, maybe even to here. And so that book took on a special interest. Then I was working on the cabin, I put a porch on it. Then all of a sudden I went to Malden, I was sick, I dropped a timber when I was working and it hurt my hernia. And so I had to have operations, so I went to a bunch of different hospitals. I stayed in Malden and found out that Redpath was in Malden, and he's the one that helped Captain John Brown. And I got a whole bunch of information and books. And then I went to Boston and found out from a book that I had here where William Lloyd Garrison was. And so now the guy's gonna mow his grass. And so I was creating the cabin, and so basically in Malden I found out that my wife had cancer. And so we were forced into a hotel to stay there. And after the hotel, I started drawing. And I remembered the cabin, and my wife had not been here for 3 years. And she was living in Malden with my daughter. So they came here, and I wanted to set up Christmas in the cabin and get it built and get a fireplace built on it.
Okay.
So we were gonna set up we were in Saugus, and we were living in a hotel. So we had our Christmas. I had to paint pictures of Christmas trees, and so I decided then that I would fill in the background of a slave to match the book that I'd already written. And so I decided to write The Last Christmas Cabin. In it, there's a slave that escapes after losing his wife and his child that the master sells him. And so he takes leave and he goes all the way up through the Underground Railroad, which actually ran through my house. My house was a safe house. And so he makes it to the cabin, and it's at Christmas time, and hence the Last Christmas Cabin. And I know the book is half done or mostly done, and I hate to give it away, but he has a happy ending. My wife's side of it is the other side of it, and she is fighting cancer, and she was supposed to come here, and the cabin was supposed to be set up for Christmas. Well, that didn't work, but after my wife got out of the hospital and was pretty much cured of the cancer, we went around the United States, so she got to see the United States, which is cool. We saw things we had never seen before. So after we came back, then it was decided that my wife and my daughter would move into the house. We couldn't live in the house, so I started building the tiny house for her to live in and altering the cabin enough to get into it. I put more onto the porch, and so when she came back with my daughter, she used the porch, and my daughter ended up sleeping in the cabin. So consequently, another Christmas went by, everything froze and got cold, and finally my daughter moved out just before Christmas, so I wasn't able to set it up with the decorations. I set up the Patriots Tavern, which was the original house that was here when the slaves first were here and Frederick Douglass was here. And I set up a setting for 12 people, which were the 12 slaves that were held by the Palmers. So basically I gave up on the idea. A little while ago I realized that July was an important part of the journey. It's the 777 thing, and since this was the seventh son of the seventh son, faith healer, which was known in Lincoln's time as well, I knew that this month was important. Everything is 21, so it ends in 3 sevens. And so the 7-7 went by, and the 714 went by, and the 721. Now all we're waiting for is the motorcycle to go by. But we're waiting for the 728 to go by. And so what happened here is that I told my wife, I said, you know, I should go back and decorate the cabin in July and have Christmas in July. And she said, oh, that's ridiculous. She doesn't like Christmas in July. She likes Christmas at Christmas time and all this baloney. So the ironic part is Hallmark runs all their Christmas shows in July. In fact, there are 4 or 5 Christmas shows on tonight and tomorrow night on the actual Hallmark channel, which now I think is part of Disney Empire. So what happened was I'm packing up my books in my place because I have to move them out of the house, and I want my library to be saved. I was trying to create a library here in Peterborough after they stripped out our library here, and they've done that in a lot of libraries. That's how I got a lot of my books. But what I was doing was I found a Mark Twain book, and I was going to get down to it, and while I was getting to it, it was in the Longfellow room, which I have a Longfellow room also, and he was also into anti-slavery. And so when I was getting into the Mark Twain book, I found papers I had written. Now, I've written 165 books in succession, and they're all the lineage of what I was doing back in California in my castle. And I got to this, some of it is just sections of the book that have been printed. And when I got to this one section today, I started reading it, and it was book number 15, and it was talking about the 9 magic square, which I had been just working on. And it turned out that it was written on the 23rd of July, which was last Friday, which I was at the library trying to write a letter to the publisher, and a big lightning storm came in. And as you'll see on there, when I was under the basement, the lights went out for the first time. So there's a lot of magic stuff going on here. And so basically the 23rd, I was reading something the 23rd of July. It was also Friday. It was 2010 year. And I was reading a part, and this was what was really strange and needs to be emphasized here to show you that things actually happen before they happen. And so I had 2 dreams on the 23rd of July, the same day that the lightning storm came through here, but only in 2010, 11 years ago. And the first dream was that I was in this shopping mall type of thing, and my wife and I were there, I think, and we were looking out, and we were above, like on the 5th floor or something, in mezzanine, and we were looking down, and the whole shopping mall was covered with Christmas decorations. It specifically mentioned in my dream that they were silver and green. which are basically the colors of hope and nobility and all kinds of pure stuff. I didn't know that. They just looked it up just a few minutes ago. And so basically, that was cool. So we're looking down this hall, and then this voice comes out and says 3 words. And then the dream is over. Then right after that, I have a second dream. And in the second dream, we go to a table, and it's decorated the same as the first thing. It's not the same place, because it's made known in my dream, but there's a table there, and sitting on the table is a thing of glasses of fluid. It's a yellow fluid, and it's in a champagne glass, so it's probably like champagne, and it's got salt around the edges and stuff. I describe the whole thing, and then we drink it, and then other people come to the table and they drink it, and they go away. And some people, it seems, I have to tell them that they're allowed to drink at the table, which would have been Jonathan Edwards, because he invited everybody to the communion table. That was his big deal. Everybody had the right to go to the communion table. In those days, some people didn't have the right to go to the communion table in the church. So, but around that, then there was a cake on the table, and we ate of the cake, and the cake was green or light green, and again was the silver motif. And then while we're doing this, we're eating this food and drinking this drink, the voice came to me again, loud in the dream. And I wrote down in detail, absolute detail. This is 2010, July 23rd, 11 years ago, in my journals. And, excuse me. And so, it's just a harmless bug. So, now it's going to crawl up on me. Oops. So, anyway, this is what the voice said, and I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to ruin it. I tried to ask my friend what he thought the voice said. Do you remember what I told you the voice said?
Not at the moment. No.
Okay. So it said 3 words. It said Christmas in July. And then the second time it said Christmas in July. Now, how can you deny that? I don't know where these voices come from. It wasn't a voice in my head, it was in my dream. Now, I'm a dream seer, and obviously they wanted me to do the Christmas in July. That was the numbers. I should preface it a little bit by saying I was working at the time on my number system, and I was trying to figure out when Christ was born, and I thought maybe I'd get some seer help. Well, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Whoever probably came in AD, BC, or what I call OC, on center, was a man that was set up all along, and they knew when he was coming because they had, used the records, past records. So basically, that was that. Now I'm not doing too well, and tomorrow's the 25th. Since Christmas is on the 25th, it's July 25th, maybe I'm supposed to decorate the Christmas cabin. But it's full of boxes, and I've been sleeping in there not very well, and so I don't know if I'm going to get to it. Anyway, I wanted my friend to put this up. We need a lot of help with the project all the way around the Milky Way Dairy, which is the guy that went to Egypt. And like I said today, I got a piece from Egypt directly. So whatever power this is, they're following through on this. The only problem is I got sick, and it just makes it hard. So we wanted to just get this up there tonight, because tomorrow's the 25th. So maybe he'll come back and tell you what happened. I don't know if he can put information up there as to who I am and how you could help me. But the long and the short of it, it is in a way kind of the great American tragedy, because all this information has been given to me, and for me just to pass away without any of the information out there and nobody to put it out there. I have a wife and a daughter, and 2 daughters, but they don't know how to put information out there to the world, and it's difficult because now we disregard most information. But all the people in my past journey always had a support partner or a support team. Even Leonardo, he didn't die alone. He had his entourage with him, and he was with the King of France. Even Mark Twain didn't die alone. He had his biographer, William Bigelow. And so, you know, nobody died alone. I'm the only one that dies alone. And even though I have 2 people with me, they're not my support team. So maybe somebody will step up and support this project. And it doesn't take much, you know, relationship. So anyway, that's the cool thing. It may just be the miracle, which is what I've been working on all along.